Welcome to the Tucson borderlands, what Immigration and Customs Enforcement sometimes calls the Tucson sector. My name is Kristina Schlabach. I'm a Mennonite minister working in the community here. There is so much to learn here at the border. And we decided to focus on two kinds of walls. One is the border wall that divides Nogales, Arizona from Nogales, Mexico, just an hour south of here. The wall that stretches for many, many miles between Mexico and the United States, and the accompanying militarization around that wall. The other kind of wall that we're going to focus on in this video piece is the walls built to keep migrants in detention centers. The walls of our detention centers hold inside about 34,000 immigrants in immigration jail on any given day, in detention jails across the United States.
Hi, my name is Jeannette Pazos. I'm the Director of Home of Hope and Peace in Nogales, Sonora. Every sunset here at the border is very important for us because it's the time that everything is active at that time. 6 o'clock is when they change their shift. At the same time is the time when the women and men finish their shift as well in the maquilas. And it's the perfect time for migrants to start to walk to the desert. So it's very important for us to think about what's happening in our borderlands in our country, and to really have these educators and the base that is our community. And it's very important that people know that there are many communities as Nogales that are organizing, but are organizing to know about what's going on the top of international politics, but also as the consequences that we are suffering. And then how we can change that. The education have to come from all levels, but also we need to hear all those people in despair that are suffering the consequences of this international politics. Because we cannot live more in this kind of world if we want to really transform it in something good. If we're talking about international politics, I'm not referring just to this wall that is right here. Migrants used to say, jump the fence is the easy part. The difficult part is to walk in that desert. The difficult part is to protect yourself to be killed from one agent. But also, I'm not talking just about that. I'm talking also about the cheap labor right there that we said that is a very quiet violence that people is bleeding inside. We used to have a migrant shelter that provides meals to migrants. And I met one of these migrants, and he was telling his story about his family. And he said, "Sister, God is coming with me, and I'm gonna cross the border because I know I will do it because God is coming with me." And he was so full of hope, just as the rest of them that used to like to talk about their families and the presence of God walking with them. So the next day, I had the opportunity to visit the Border Patrol station, and one of the agents that gave us that tour was a very nice guy. He was explaining to us about what I used to do with migrants and numbers, and just an explanation what they used to do there. And before we ended the tour, he was asked from one of the group, "Do you like the work you do?" And he answered, "Yes, I like very much," because he was seeing himself like a guardian from the country. And then he was asked again, "Are you afraid of your work?" And he said, "No, not really. I know that God is coming with me." I realized, and it was a surprise for me to see that he also was a Christian. And he also was mentioning God in his life. So I realized that God is with the migrant that was walking, but also that Border Patrol agent. And in my experience to live my whole life at the border, and the way that I see the Border Patrol that day changed me. And the most important thing here is to know that we are human.
In Arizona, there are around 3,000 people in immigration custody and in the custody of the Office of Refugee Resettlement. Detention, when it began, is supposed to be used as a last resort, detention as a last resort. And I think in this country, it's pretty clear that we've turned to using detention as the default. Throughout the country, there are around 34,000 people in custody on any given day. The U.S. Congress has appropriated funding to provide beds for 34,000 people. That doesn't necessarily mean that there are that many people in custody. It just means that there are that many beds available to hold that many immigrants in detention. ICE spends around $164 per bed per night. The Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project provides free legal services, orientation and information and materials to individuals who are in immigration custody and are fighting their cases in front of the immigration court. There are other organizations around the country that provide similar services. Immigration detention and immigration legal proceedings are different from criminal proceedings and criminal incarceration for primarily two reasons. First, people who are in criminal proceedings and in criminal incarceration are serving a sentence. They've been convicted of a crime and they're serving a sentence for that crime. Immigration detention exists solely for the purpose of making certain that somebody will show up for their immigration court. Secondly, the other main difference is that because immigration is a civil detention, it's not a criminal detention, individuals are not afforded an attorney at the government's expense. So for those two reasons, people face a lot of difficulties, not only with their legal case, but because immigration detention is, they're not serving a sentence in immigration detention, their detention is indefinite. So we meet with a number of clients who have been convicted of a crime and have served sentences in jails. And I've been told often by clients that when they were in jail, they knew they were serving a sentence, whether it was 30 days or 6 months. They knew when the end was going to come. They knew that it was a finite period of time, and they were mentally preparing themselves for, okay, I'm going to be here for 6 months. This is what I need to do to get through these 6 months. In immigration detention, they don't know how long their court case is going to last, and so they don't know how long they're going to be in detention. And so the mental preparedness that people can use when they know that they're serving a certain sentence, they're not able to do that as well and cope with the detention as well psychologically. The Physicians for Human Rights issued a report a couple of years back and compared the detention in ICE custody to that of Guantanamo Bay because of the indefinite nature of ICE detention. That people suffer a lot of both psychological and medical trauma because they're not able to prepare. They don't know what's coming.
Along with the sorrow and the stress that is very palpable when I visit men and women in detention, I have also seen great resilience of spirit and great compassion for each other. Women help each other, understand documents, translate for each other, share things that are needed, and look out for each other in detention in remarkable ways. There's two women that I would like to tell you about briefly. One is Johanna, a woman from Guatemala who has lived in the United States for 20 years in Georgia and has a 13-year-old daughter. 2 years ago, Johanna was apprehended by Immigration Customs Enforcement and deported back to Guatemala for being undocumented. Her daughter was left at home not knowing where her mother disappeared to and was taken in by a neighbor. Now she's being cared for by an aunt in Texas. Johanna in Guatemala, after a few months, decided to try to return for her daughter and to be with her daughter. So she came across our border again. She was apprehended by Border Patrol, and now she is in immigration detention near here. She has been in immigration detention over a year now here in this place, so she's not seen her daughter for 2 years and continues to try to fight her court case to try to remain here in the United States with her U.S. citizen daughter. She is discouraged but continues onward with that goal. Irma also came from Guatemala out of great poverty. She left 4 young children behind with her parents in order to come here to try to earn enough money to send back to them and to return to them at some time. She was apprehended almost immediately, placed in immigration detention. A judge gave her no hope for being able to remain, and she was deported a couple weeks ago. But the kind of poverty that Irma described and the lack of hope in the situation that she came from made a big impression on me. And it's very clear that no parent would ever choose to leave their children behind and make such a dangerous, arduous journey to the United States if it weren't out of survival. I belong to a community in Tucson called Casa Mariposa, and we write letters to men and women in detention. I brought one to share just a paragraph with you. This is written by Fernando, who says, "Thank you for having thought about me. Your words let me know that I am not forgotten. For the people to write to me who don't even know me is a reminder that God is remembering me and sent his angels to help me and to help me know that I can continue on. God bless you and care for you always. Thank you, Fernando." Visiting and writing to men and women in detention is something we can do no matter where we live. There is a detention center within driving distance, almost certainly, and letters can be sent anywhere. So that's something that we can tangibly do while we urge our congresspersons to repair our broken immigration system. We will be moved by the people we get to know, and they will be encouraged by us. We can't read the Bible without knowing God's great concern for people in prison. And I think that's just compounded when it's strangers who come to us from other countries, strangers among us who are far from home. So to not let them languish away in remote detention centers, but to find out where they are and to become a presence and to get to know one another is one tangible, important step that makes a difference while we continue to work for change.
My name is Bryce Miller. I've served as pastor at Shalom Mennonite Fellowship for the past 8 years. We are the Mennonite Church USA congregation in Tucson, Arizona. For us, the reality of immigration is one that is very real and very present with us. From where we're standing here on our campus, we are a mile away from Border Patrol headquarters. And as a church, we have to acknowledge that this is a system that has many thousands of people moving invisibly through it each and every day. And people who did not come here by choice, did not come here with malintent, but simply came here to survive and to live and to migrate. And so the question for us is one of love your neighbor as yourself. And who is my neighbor? And the answer gets very complicated. Because for us, our neighbor has to start with certainly those who we don't see, the migrants, those who are coming through here, those who are our brothers and sisters, who are at risk and mortal danger here in this lovely but dangerous desert. But we also are drawn to answer that question too with, quite literally, our neighbors are those who are part of the machine of enforcement, part of the militarization and the reality who are there. And so we live in the tension of how do we live the call to love our neighbors when they seem so diametrically opposed. And truth be told, we have neighbors that we prefer over others. And how do we live that out? And how do we do that well? We know that this reality is very different for those who are coming here for the first time, for our Hispanic brothers and sisters who experience this very, very differently. It's also been our pleasure to be a place just to gather around these questions from people from all over and to be a welcoming place for people to learn and to think and to process for themselves. Okay, what does this mean for me? In a place where the realities aren't all that different from the Midwest or the East Coast or wherever else you might be. The reality is here. You can't ignore the wall. You can't ignore migration. You can't ignore Border Patrol. So now what do you do? And for us, that is an ongoing and lively and complicated question, but one that we're glad to engage with all our brothers and sisters as we seek to live God's mission and be part of what God is doing in this place and this time.
Immigration touches all of us, no matter where we live in the United States. But if you are interested in coming down here, we're always eager to share these realities here at the border with you. There's lots of places to stay and lots of study programs. So bring a youth group, bring a group from your congregation, and we'll be glad to explore these issues more in depth with you right here. Anytime, you're always welcome.